Myron. Hey, we are back. Real Talk with Myron, and I have Alan Bird with me, and we are here. So we're going to further educate you. We seem to have a lot of comments, a lot of controversy on our last subject.
Yes, we did.
Of what we were talking about July 9th, commemoration, and we just want to bring it back and educate you a little bit more if you haven't been educated already. And we want to just give you some more to talk about. You know, we loved it. We loved the interaction. We loved the comments, everything. Just keep pouring in, and we're going to keep pouring in to y'all. Alan Bird, nice to have you back, man.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, we kind of stirred up a hornet's nest last time.
And we're going to keep stirring it up. We're going to keep stirring it up.
Yes.
And last time you were here, we were talking about an event that you were going to have. And we wanted to let you know that you had the event, and the event made the front page. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, it was a awesome, surreal day. Like I said, we wanted to plant the flag. July 9th, 1868 was one of the most consequential days in Black American history. That's what we talked about last time. That's what all this stuff was about. But the biggest thing that we talked about last time was that it was never commemorated, that it came and it went, and we didn't allow ourselves to accept our ownership, and it had a profound effect on our mental psyche, I believe, from a ownership standpoint, from a patriotism standpoint, and from a citizenship standpoint. So it was very, very important for us to do the commemoration, and as you see right here, I was so thankful for the Jacksonville Free Press to Lynn. She called me, Sister Lynn, and said, I would want to do an article, you know, about your commemoration. We heard it went off pretty good. And so I was going to be thankful just to get, that's us right here. So we had the Duval Day, which was an awesome front page. And then she said that we're going to put you on the front page. So I'm like, my goodness, we made for the very first commemoration for July 9th, National Citizenship Day.
Let's give a hand for that.
Yes, awesome. It's a great, man.
Thank you,
Jacksonville Free Press, man.
You
that's
know,
awesome, man. So
for the first time you doing something and you make the front page, that's awesome.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Like I said, I would have been happy to be anywhere in this paper.
Right.
So when she said we made front page, then and I want to give a shout out to the Montford Point Marines who was in attendance.
They were in
attendance?
Yes.
The Montford Point Marine local chapter 29. Jacksonville was in attendance for our National Citizenship Day, and the Vice President, and the Vice President, Mr. Hill, he read Chapter 7, the Civil War chapter of our book. So again, shout out to them. That was one of the big questions we had.
Right.
In the comments, remember the Montford Point Marines, right?
The Montford Point Marines. Yeah. We want to get back to that. We here with you today, and we want to let you know that. We're not running from no smoke. I just say how the young kids say, ducking no smoke.
We won't smoke.
We ain't ducking no smoke from anybody. And we here, we got questions from the comments.
Okay.
So we kind of read something in the comments. One of the comments were more about indigenous people versus Africans. And, you know, we wanted to let the people know. So this is the first question we got for this. When people hear the word indigenous, they often assume it simply means Native American. But historically, the word means originating from a particular place. Before we even debate the ancestry, can you explain the legal, historical, and anthropological definition of indigenous? Why does the definition matter?
Well, the thing about the word indigenous, it's a very complex definition depending upon how it's used, right?
Right.
And it's confusing from a lineage standpoint for us as Black Americans. So the first thing I want to say is this here, okay? There are different types of lineage and different types of ancestry, and that's where we've got to re-examine how we define it. So when you say indigenous, that could mean indigenous to the continent,
right?
Okay, the North American landmass, or we're talking about indigenous to the country, okay?
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of people who say, well, you know, we were indigenous, we were here first. Okay, well, the next question is,
first where?
First where?
Right.
First to the continent,
or first
to the country?
Right.
And so we could literally be talking past each other. We could be talking about the same thing and be right, but so I think it's important to distinguish, and differentiate between which one we're talking about. So I say, when I say indigenous, I say I'm indigenous to the country of America. We're not, because we're not immigrants. And a lot of people are saying, well, if you're not indigenous, then we're all immigrants.
Right.
And I absolutely disagree with that.
So who are the indigenous to America?
When you say indigenous to the American continent, we got the 5 civilized tribes and several other tribes. The 5 civilized tribes are just the larger ones, but there are a lot of them. They're even, I think the Apache tribe is not considered one of the 5 civilized tribes, but they're larger. I think they actually have a lot more territory than the Cherokee or of the others that were considered, the part of the 5 civilized tribes. So there's like, I think 280 different recognized tribes that America today recognizes. We have over 200 some odd active treaties today, the United States of America, the country, with those indigenous tribes.
So are Black Americans considered indigenous people?
That's it. We are indigenous to the country because we were here before the country was established, right? So we came here in 1619, the first settlement in Virginia, that was a colony, but we weren't the United States of America yet. So our ancestors were already here on the continent. Now, there's been a lot of controversy back and forth about people changing records, and there's a big story about a gentleman in Virginia who took indigenous people and changed it to African. Again, all of that it's history, but again, does it help your archaeological or your genealogical lineage from a tracking standpoint to track where you are?
So they say one of the biggest debates online is whether Black Americans should identify primarily through the lens of Africa, through their uniquely American history, through documented indigenous ancestry when applicable. How do historians, genealogists, and legal records approach these different identities?
That's what I'm trying to say. So it's like, again, we have been on this long journey, Black Americans have, as far as saying, who are we?
Right.
And that's been complicated because of the fact that there was a huge swath of people who did not want us to recognize America as our home. So we've been looking elsewhere. And when I say we, not all Black Americans, but a huge contingent of us were, at least in just this generation, because right after emancipation, right after slavery ended, and we were faced with the choice of going back to Africa or staying here, the vast majority of Black Americans said, no, we were born here, our parents are born here, this is our land, and we're going to fight for ownership here. And that's what they did. And that's what my whole book about the promise and completion was documenting, that period between the time that we were freed to the time that we got actual birthright citizenship here. Right. There was a contingent, like we talked about last time, that went back to Africa, to Liberia. So there was some that went back to Africa that thought maybe Africa would be better for them. But even those that went back, like I said, they stayed American.
Right.
They didn't assimilate back into their culture. So Black Americans, we've got to embrace our ethnogenesis. And that's the word we talked about last time. I'm going to keep hammering that word home. If you understand any word, ethnogenesis, you got to understand what that word means. You got to embrace it because it's a beautiful thing. It talks about our genesis, our creation of Black Americans, and it gets away from this idea of that we're African or we're indigenous. We're Black Americans, period.
You said something about birthright.
Yes.
Okay. It was I think it was court about birthright since we last talked.
Yeah, the big decision.
The big decision.
Yeah.
And can you explain your outtake on that?
Yeah, you know what's funny about that?
What was actually ruled in that decision? What was ruled?
Okay, the thing about what we talked about last time, one of the big questions we had that we got a lot of response on was about when I said that the Constitution was foundational. Right. That it's hard. I said it can't be changed, but it can be changed, but it's really, really hard. Right. And the whole history of the Constitution, only one amendment has ever been overridden. That's the prohibition.
Okay.
So all the amendments, none of them have never been overridden other than that one. So my whole point about that and how foundational our citizenship is, our equal rights protection is, our voting rights, and the abolishment of slavery is that even in this situation, because remember what I said, the constitutional laws puts it above presidents, legislatures, national mood, politics, because it's so foundational that you just can't just change it.
Right.
And that's why it was so important that the Civil Rights Act of 1866 had to be elevated from a legislature statute, which to a 14th Amendment constitutional level, so that no one can mess with it. And here we are, almost 158 years later. We had the Supreme Court decision. We had a Republican president, a Republican legislature. We had a Supreme Court that was a majority conservative. So you would think that with all those things on one side, that this question about birthright citizenship would have went the other way. And they had public sentiment, because the majority of Americans believed that the birthright citizenship, the way it's being used now, with the loopholes about with birth tourism and people being born here without their whose parents aren't citizens,
Right.
that it need to be narrowed, not abolished, but narrowed.
Narrowed to the people who
were actually born here, but parents are legal
and
and are citizens here.
Right.
Okay, so I want to say this here. I actually was in the crowd with the majority of Americans.
Okay.
Okay. I said, well, you know, birthright citizenship, if you're born here, you should be a citizen here, but it shouldn't apply to people who are here illegally. I misread it, because now as we look back at it, I said, you know what? The subject says all persons born. It don't mention their parents. It doesn't mention the status of their parents. It says that if you're born on this soil, then you're a citizen. What that does, it puts the onus on the legislature to do immigration. What we did, we conflated the two. We put citizenship and immigration in the same boat. This is the same thing, and it's not.
It's not.
And once I seen that, it clicked. I said, oh, now I get it. So it had to be clear. So now we right back to what it meant to Black Americans.
Right.
Okay. The reason birthright citizenship was so foundational, the reason that we had to make it in such a way that no one could touch it, not even a Republican president, Republican Republican legislature, and a conservative Supreme Court, still, Justice Roberts, Chief Justice, he said, when the Solicitor General made the case, he said, hey, man, we got 8 billion people that's on the plane ride away from the United States.
Right.
Surely the framers didn't intend for that to be there. And the Chief Justice said, well, the guy said, well, it's a new world. We got people can get here and with a plane ride away. Chief Justice said, yeah, but it's the same old Constitution. That was the mic drop there.
He said it was the same old Constitution.
Same old Constitution. So all that stuff you're talking about now that's going on here, they ain't got to do it. The Constitution is bedrock. Right. The Constitution says that all persons born here. But again, let's go back to that English, reading comprehension.
Right.
It didn't say the status of the parent. So now we go back to Dred Scott. So why was that so consequential? Dred Scott was born in America. He was an American. He was born in America.
And Dred Scott.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
He was a slave. He was born in America, but because his parents were of African descent, Judge Taney said that he couldn't be a citizen. So again, you're looking at the fact that he was looking at the fact that where he came from. The 14th Amendment said it don't matter where you came from. If you're born in the soil, you're a citizen.
Right.
And it did that because they didn't want to have a situation where our ancestors could be written off, written out of the Constitution by a later court or a later legislature or president. So they made it bedrock. Right. So now people say, yeah, but they weren't thinking about immigration. Of course they weren't. Right. Because it ain't about immigration. Right. It's about citizenship.
Right. So that law got shut down. Well, Trump tried Trump tried to get it approved that if you weren't born here, even if you were born here, but if your parents weren't citizens, then
you couldn't be a citizen of the United States. They misread it.
Right.
And it got to do with the parents. So what that does, from a political standpoint, they can now justify very strict immigration laws because of what America's legacy. See, when people understand, when the Civil Rights Act of 1866 was passed, it was passed over a presidential veto. Andrew Johnson vetoed that law. So you're talking about an environment where they passed the Civil Rights Act over a presidential veto, which meant they had to get 2/3 of the Senate and the House to override the veto. So they already knew that law was shaky.
Right.
That was, the president already ain't on board. So we passed the 1866 law, which gave us birthright citizenship.
Right. But
a later Congress, I mean, look at what it did with Plessy v. Ferguson and all that stuff later on. They would have struck it down. Yeah. So Trump was right when he said that it was made for the babies of slaves, and that's what opened up Pandora's box for me. And I realized that this was about us and our ancestors primarily first. Now, it's written in the universal language for everybody to benefit, but we got to understand this is written for us first.
Right. And the people don't understand what I think now we're educating them. I think now the more that we're speaking, the more that we're speaking out, and we're not the only ones, there's other people speaking on the same thing. But the more that we educate them and the more we keep ringing the bell, our sound's going to get louder and louder. Another question. I
want to say one last thing to that. Now, the moment they came back and said, hey, listen, the 14th Amendment says it's for the actual person. It doesn't say where the parents came from. The moment that happened, what did the Trump administration do? They immediately had the Justice Department beef up policy against birth tourism. Immediately had them say, okay, now, since we couldn't do it through the Constitution,
we'll do it through.
Y'all got to do it other ways because the tools are there.
Right.
And now Congress has to get involved. To me, they have justification to have, more robust immigration restrictions about that. I mean, one thing could be, listen, if you come over here and you're illegal and you have and your child has a baby here, that baby's a citizen. But now, does it mean that now you have a right to automatic citizenship or status or be able to get in line because your child's a citizenship? Right. They could change. There are things they can do to change that. Right. But you can't mess with what was for us.
So let's jump to one of these questions about the Redeemers.
Yeah. Okay, the Redeemers.
Okay. Many Americans can explain slavery and they can explain Jim Crow, but understand what happened in between. Who were the Redeemers? What were they trying to redeem? And how did they rise to power, fundamentally reshape the South after Reconstruction?
Man, look at here, bro. That's the one that got me, man. That's because, you always ask these questions, why? Like, something so consequential as birthright citizenship and getting your ownership. Why didn't we know about this? That's why didn't we not know about this? Why do we know about slavery, the lynchings, the Ku Klux Klan? Why do we know about that stuff, but didn't know about July 9th and how important it was? And so what I finally realized was that it was all part of the plan, man. It was all a part of the plan to continue to keep Black Americans to feel like they were outsiders looking in. Now, I said my last thing, the Covenant generation understood what was at stake. That's why they fought. That's why they stayed. Okay, that's why they bore the brunt of these things. But the Redeemers' whole strategy was to make Black Americans feel like this was not their country. After they lost the Civil War, after the 13th, well, actually the 14th, the 15th Amendment mostly, they were upset by the 13th Amendment, but the 13th Amendment was passed while the Civil War was still going on.
So the Redeemers were like a movement? Or
it was a movement. It was a strategy. The Redeemers, the Lost Cause, the Daughters of the Confederacy, that whole thing, how they educated us in the South, the main thing was make Black Americans feel like they were outsiders. We know through the Constitution we can't kick them out because it's foundational. So what can we do to make. It's kind of like putting them in a pot and just turning it up. We got to make it so uncomfortable for them that they jump out.
Yeah.
That they leave. Ku Klux Klan, the lynchings, all the terrible things they did to us. The psychological stuff with the Sambos, anything they could do to make Black Americans feel like they were savage, like they were less than. But man, our ancestors, they did their thing. They kept the moral high ground. We built schools. We built towns, businesses. We continued to outperform the myths. And so it got so bad that they literally were putting up barriers because they didn't want us to prove them wrong.
Right.
Military, baseball. That when baseball first started out, I heard that in the late 1800s, there were Black people playing in the major leagues. They resegregated the military, base, anything they could, because they didn't want us to destroy their strategy of make them be superior.
Right.
But our ancestors continue to outperform. They continue to do this thing. So the Redeemers is something that we found out in our clips, where people were saying that the 14th Amendment was illegal.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Because they knew that they had to sign that as a condition for them to get back into the Union. So I need for people to understand that there was a whole program that was set out to make us not want to and understand what our ownership was.
It says, to what extent did the Reconstruction pave the way for legal and political systems that became known as Jim Crow? And what lessons does that period offer about protecting constitutional rights?
Man, the same thing we talked about last time, but even in more detail with the recent Supreme Court ruling. Okay, constitutional rights are covenants. It's foundational. The best thing anybody can do with those constitutional laws, short of having a constitutional convention, getting 3/4 of the states to sign off on it. I think it's 3/4 of Congress. It's almost impossible to do. So the best thing they can do, other than repeal an amendment, is to make it as uncomfortable as possible. But you got to look at it from the other side as well. It shows just how foundational those laws were, that the best they could do is chip away at the edges. But they couldn't get to the foundation. That stayed there.
That seems like that's what it's all about. And I said it before, it's a mind thing.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's
psychological. Psychological, what you know less of, or what I can tell you less of what you're supposed to be. And it seems as though that's what has been going on for generations and generations and generations. Not knowing is one thing. And they said one of the other things they said, if you don't want us to know, I had put it in a book. Yeah,
that's that. And you know what? I'm gonna say put it in a book now, because again, man, our foundation, our covenant generation, they were such ravenous learners. They were engineers. They ran whole plantations. Those owners would leave and go off do their thing. The plantation was run by us. Right. Whole systems. So they understood how smart we were. And listen, they made reading illegal. Think about that. They made reading illegal because we were trying to read so much. So we were risking jail or risking punishment to read. But now, like you said, it's been flipped because of the psychological period that we went through with the dehumanization, what I call the anti-intellectual movement. Right. To whereas, are you talking white? Or why are you trying to be white? Because they've literally, that Redeemer period and all those things they did, they made the black and white conflict so adversarial that anything associated with white, I'm like, man, I ain't dealing with it.
Right.
And and so it became anti. So we went from 1979. By 1979, blacks had caught up with whites with literacy rates.
Right.
From slavery to 1979, we were even, and we jumped. You go back and look at historically, there were like 15 to 25% jumps that we caught up to them.
Right.
To the point where, Sesame Street and all that stuff, man, we looked at all those different programs that we were aggressive about learning. Man, we weren't always anti-education.
Right.
As a culture.
No, it was more. If you get caught reading, you could get beat.
Yeah. So think about that. So now you can't pay somebody to read. You try to get these kids to read now. Okay, they got to get more interested in it. So
right.
you go from being caught. You were trying to read so much that you would risk being beat.
Yeah.
To now, you got to beat somebody to read.
I don't know what that's. I knew.
The psychological, man. See, it's the same people. Our ancestors. Think about how that's turned upside down now.
Mm-hmm. And it just seems as though sometimes when we think about education or educating ourselves, we have to be willing to listen first. Yeah. We have to be willing to listen and accept the things that you can't do nothing about. You can't do nothing about what was done before you. You have to just change for what you got now. From this point, what you can control. So all we can do is take our history and learn from it. Mm-hmm. Learn from who we are, who we were, mm-hmm. to who we can be now. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't take that. They don't listen and take that perspective.
Right.
But we here, mm-hmm. and we're going to try to urge you to take that perspective and learn. And we're going to sit here and talk about it and bring it up and talk about it to more until more people are uncomfortable about what we are saying.
And I'm going to say this here. What Myron and I are going to be doing in these series about history is we're going to talk about it in a different way. I'm not a professional historian. Neither is Myron. We're educated, but this is not our professional field. So we've trusted all these years that these people with these credentials and degrees will teach us the history, because that's their job, right? But now I understand, as a manufacturer, as an entrepreneur, as a military man, that history, we all have a responsibility to learn history. Right. And then remember his story, her story. Right. So it's still a narrative. Right. Even though it's documented events, people still have to tell his story.
I'm gonna tell a story. It's a quick story before we go.
Yeah.
My dad, I remember when Reebok and Fila's came out, mm-hmm. and I asked him to take me to the store. I wanted to get some Reeboks, mm-hmm. and he was like, "Okay." I for some reason he never really buy me name brand stuff at that particular time, mm-hmm. but I was pushing for it because everybody else had it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we went into the Foot Locker into Gateway Mall, which is in the north side. If you know anything about Jacksonville, the black side, mm-hmm. the blackest side of town.
Yeah, Gateway Mall.
Gateway Mall. Mm-hmm. We went in the Foot Locker, and I'm looking at shoes. I'm like, yeah, he gonna give me some shoes. I'm gonna get him some shoes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He went looking around. And he asked the man, he said, I don't see any HBCU stuff in here. I don't see you have any type of HBCU. Well, they don't let us sell that. Okay, cool. All right. My dad wouldn't let us shop in there.
Yeah, there you go.
He wouldn't let me shop in there. Yeah, that's how serious about
our health culture
stuff. He was an American history teacher too.
Yeah, okay, yeah, exactly.
So that's how strict and how thoughtful about his thought process.
Yes.
I'm not going to shop with you if you don't have anything that I can buy that looks like me.
Yes, exactly. And that's the thing. We've got to know our history. And to your father's profession, we trust that they understand the history, and God bless him for what he done. And like I said, that to me is an actual lesson on the worth. Right. The worth of us. Right. And I know we're about to go and everything, but we just had the situation where Ryan Clark was just fired from ESPN. Right. Now I'm gonna say this here, and this controversial. Man was on TV crying. I didn't like that at all. Listen, man, it's all about your worth. Okay. Right. You have a show called The Pivot, one of the best shows that I've seen. The production quality. You have some of the best people there. We got to show our own pride. Right. Yeah, we can't ever expect other people to give us the same level of respect and access. We got to have our own. Yeah. And he already has his. So I'm like, I understand the emotional side of it, but no, man, I ain't gonna let them see me cry. I'm just not gonna do that, man. I'm sorry. I ain't gonna do that.
I think he's been on the side of media for a long time, and I think maybe that's a cry more than an anger, because he don't want to be looked up as the angry black man, so he'd rather be looked at as the man who showed his feelings and was vulnerable on TV, which is all and good to whatever, you know, he wants to do. But like you said, I probably wouldn't have done that. But you know, each his own.
Each his own.
You know what I mean? We're gonna be back with more real talk. We're not done. We're gonna have a part 2. And we're going to educate you some more about the 14th Amendment, about who you are, and about who we are as a people. And I've been Alan Bird, and Real Talk with Myron.
Yes.
Coming back to you.
All right.
All right. We
Good
out.
to go.